Let's run it whenever. And welcome into the Daily Wolves podcast. We are live here post game. Minnesota Timberwolves beat the Charlotte Hornets. Another W for the Wolves on a 3-game win streak. That's something you need when they've struggled a lot earlier this year. We got people joining in right now. Shout out to everyone joining already. We already got a comment in here. We got a let's go. I love it. I love the energy, John. Appreciate that as well. Thank you for following us. Thank you for tuning in, man, and joining into the post game show. We're the Daily Wolves, and we do the Daily Wolves courtside. It's a new show we've actually just released. We're with Andrew as well, one of my co-hosts that's on right now, and then Matt, as always. Follow Andrew. His ad is on the page. You can see it on the screen over there. We also have our other socials, man, so definitely check us out there. We post additional content. I know we had a Rob Dillingham edit as well on our Instagram and TikTok today. So somebody's got audio of a TV playing in the back that's pretty loud right now. I don't know.
My apologies, boys. I will fix that.
Yeah, no worries. I'm just letting you know so we don't get it like drowned out right now when people are joining here, guys. We are live, so bear with us, everybody. But yeah, Minnesota, they get a much needed win. Obviously, the Charlotte Hornets are without Brandon Miller, Josh Okogie, a fan favorite from back in the day. But nonetheless, you just got to win against the inferior teams, and they did that tonight, which I thought they took advantage of it, and that's what you got to do, right? Let's kind of get into the game because one guy I got to bring up right away to start off the game. I thought he had a fantastic one. That's Jaden McDaniels. We're going to get right into him because I think I put it out. I posted it. I'm not going to take it back right now. I'm rolling with it full deep with Kyle Tagge. I think Jaden McDaniels is going to be a star. I've seen enough now this season, this last half of the year. I'm on board with Jaden McDaniels being into the star realm. I have graduated from him being a really good role player or a starter level caliber player, an all defensive player, maybe a 3-and-D player too. I believe he has it in a bag. I've seen enough offensively where I think this kid has something special. I don't know if I don't think he's going to be necessarily a superstar caliber player, but I think he's a star level talent for sure. And now you're seeing why Minnesota believed in him so much. I mean, 29 points, one basket off his career high, Matt. I mean, he was incredible tonight. Absolutely incredible. And the way he pushed, like he just showed you everything in his bag, right? He shot the 3-point shot. He drove in the fadeaway jumper, the undefendable, unguardable Kevin Durant height that he gets on everything. And you're really seeing it. He finishes through contact now. I mean, he's not scared to take it. He's a dog. He gets in there. He hustles. We're seeing Scottie Pippen being reborn right between our eye. We're going to hype him up, man. But yeah, 29 points, 13 for 21 for Jaden. And dude, what more can you say for him, Matt?
Dude, you can't really ask much more for Jaden McDaniels. I've been harping on it all year. The big contract, it's finally looking like it's going to be a good payoff for us. It's going to be a good gamble. I think that, Jaden, I think it might be time to say that, Jaden is officially a lock that can be that number 2, that number 3 on a championship team. I think I'm a little bit hesitant yet to say that number 2, but I think that he would be one of the best current number 3 options in the league. Like you said, he's finding his shots, he's finding his spots where he can get on the floor to get those shots up and produce on offense while having 2 ball dominant players with Ant and with Julius. And another thing about Jaden too that I feel like we haven't touched on a ton recently, it kind of seems like he's figured out the little ticky-tack fouls here and there. He's only had 2 tonight, and he played 38 minutes. Imagine saying that last year. Jaden McDaniels playing 38 minutes, having almost a 30-10 stat line with 2 fouls. So it's just great to see Jaden finally start to grow, get smarter offensively and defensively both. So yeah, A+ game from Jaden.
What are you seeing, Andrew, about Jaden too tonight's game, and what have you been seeing from him that makes you hopeful that this isn't just a fluke? This is consistent. It's something that not only is it going to continue this season, but if the Timberwolves were to make it to the play-in or the playoffs, why would this continue?
I mean, Jaden worked at it. He stayed in Minnesota over the summer. He pretty much stayed with Naz Reid, worked out at the training facility every day. This is what the Wolves expected. They expected this from day one. Finch said they were going to draw up plays for Jaden. Ant was super high on Jaden. They expected Jaden to be the 3rd best player on the team. And then he came out and was, I mean, I think he'd admit it too. He was pretty bad. I mean, he wasn't making threes. He wasn't driving confidently. His fouls, I just looked it up, through October and November were 3.3 a game and 3.5 a game. right around his career average. It was really since Julius got hurt, since Mike got hurt, since Ant has been kind of dinged up, that he's been getting this opportunity, and he's crushing it. I mean, in February, 18.5 points per game, 48% from the field. You know, I posted about it during the game, but like, I do think Jaden is going to go up another level at some point this season or going into next season. His career averages on corner threes are 36.5% last year, 41.3 the year before that, 40.3 as a rookie, 35.6 and 21. He's shooting 28% from the corners this year. Like, at some point, Jaden's going to get hot from the corners, and then what do? He's a 7-foot tall wing that can make these weird little float shots and turnarounds and attack the rim. He's just been awesome.
Yeah, I think he's so much upside now. We're fully seeing it. We saw it last year. I think fans got a glimpse of it in the playoffs when Jaden was fantastic in certain games during the Dallas Mavericks series, especially. He looked really good. But yeah, man, it's awesome to see Jaden coming out. Obviously, one of the young guys for the future. And now it's looking like his contract is one of the better contracts, you know, in the NBA coming up here. Another guy who had a really good game tonight, Julius Randle. Fantastic game. I think somebody had commented, has Randle actually graduated? We love that. It's looking like it right now, man. It's looking like Randle's kind of found the groove for the team. I think he's finally becoming a team player, not an individual player. And it's really showing right now. He's buying into what the coaching staff has been telling him. He looks like he's connected from front to back. He's playing defense. He looks like he's in shape. He doesn't look like he was hurt at all. And he was really just doing everything tonight. He almost had a triple-double, guys. He was 1 assist off, 25 points, 9 assists, 10 rebounds for Julius Randle on 8 of 18 shooting. Matt, what did you see out of Julius Randle tonight that should get Timberwolves fans in here watching excited?
You know, I think the big thing that stands out to me is that assist number, having 9 assists. We talked about it the whole time while he was out, having that number 2 option next to Ant to handle the ball, to be that primary guy when there's no Anthony Edwards on the floor. We saw that tonight at the beginning of the second when Ant wasn't on the floor, when Julius was on the floor with Rob, TJ, I believe Jalen Clark was out there, and Dante. When you're running out there with 4 guards and you're Julius Randle, you're the 6'9" guy playing the center. And you're still able to go out there, you're still able to create and play make for your offense with 4 guards on the floor. I feel like that's kind of an underrated thing, and just something that's definitely going to get overlooked, because obviously there's no stat for that to pop up in the box score. That's something that's going to get really overlooked, as it's something that happened early in the second quarter. But I think that was definitely something that kind of stood out to me. But Julius just coming back and being able to give you this type of production after an injury, after missing 2.5 weeks, if I remember correctly, it's really reassuring to see. We wanted Julius to come back to the form that he was in prior to the injury, playing that team-oriented basketball. And like you said, Evan, not really stat padding or playing for himself, playing for that next contract, really buying into what the coaches and what everybody else around the team is saying. So this is just a product. And I would assume, like Andrew would say, it's expected. You know, this is one of those things when you listen to your coach, when you buy into the philosophy, winning basketball is bound to happen. Individual and team success is bound to happen. And I think that's just a culprit of it.
Now he's been, again, buying into every single thing, doing all the dirty work finally. Andrew, I'm wondering, are we going to continue to see this, you think, when Rudy Gobert returns? Because obviously it's probably going to be Gobert in the starting lineup, we would assume, and Naz Reid would go back to the bench. Is Julius Randle coming back right now? Is it just because he's playing with Naz Reid and he kind of has all these players around him that can, you know, maybe move the ball, not clog the paint as much? Or is it, like, what's your opinion on the Gobert-Randle fit going for the rest of the year and maybe into the playoffs, man?
I think it's going to fit just fine. I mean, Julius, before his injury, was playing with Randle quite a bit. They kind of, before, again, thinking back 3 weeks ago, they kind of had a rotation setup where starters were Dante, Ant, Jaden, Randle, and Gobert. Dante and Randle would sub out at about the 6-minute mark. They would put in Naz Reid and Mike Conley, run last year's catless Wolves, and then they would sub out Rudy Gobert for Julius Randle at like the 10-minute mark, and they would just play spread a lot of bench players around Randall, which when Randall's the primary option, he's awesome. I mean, the other thing I'd just say is like Randall has bought in. Like we kind of talked about it a little bit yesterday, but like it kind of sucks for him, right? Like his usage rate is 5% less. He's shooting 4 less shots per game, despite having the same field goal and 3-point percentage he's always had. His turnover percentage is the same. He's the guy that's just sacrificing the most. And if he's bought in, if he trusts Finch, if he trusts this organization, and this is kind of the output of it, he's been great. He gives you that other ball handler that can just create for people. And yes, it's ugly when he turns it over. And those weird fadeaway jump passes to the corner almost give me an aneurysm every time. But they work. For some reason, they work. And I mean, the other thing I'd say is like having been around the team, like Julius is just a really good dude. Like he's a lot quieter than you'd think. He's soft-spoken, thoughtful, like really big family guy. Like he fits with this team really well. Like just personality-wise, he's kind of that like yin and yang to Anthony Edwards, where Ant is just so boisterous. Julius is kind of the same soft-spoken guy every time I've seen him. And they kind of need that consistency when Ant's getting a little hot.
No, I totally agree. I think having that calming presence right now, I think that veteran leadership hopefully comes in for Randall, something that's desperately needed for the Wolves. He's one of the oldest players in the team. So having that experience, being a multi-time all-star and all NBA talent, that's going to be huge for the Timberwolves going forward. And he's got a point to prove to the rest of the year, right? He's going to kind of on that. I know he's a player option, but he's trying to prove to the league, prove to the Timberwolves what he's worth. And then it's kind of in Tim Conley's and the rest of the league's hand at that point. Let's go over another guy who just obviously made his return, guys, recently. And that's Dante DiVincenzo, finally getting into the starting lineup, Matt. Obviously 16 points tonight for Dante. Another good game. I mean, we just keep saying it. Rated R Regu up there, going crazy every single night. What did you see out of Dante's game tonight that gets you, again, excited as a Timberwolves fan?
Well, yeah, if you were on the stream last night, you would have heard that my hot take for the night was that Dante was going to have a double-double, and I couldn't have been further from it. But, yeah, Dante, like you said, Evan, it's his first game back in the starting lineup. He came out, and he was a plus 17 in the plus-minus. He shot 71%, 4 for 5 from 3. Only 1 turnover from Dante as well. That was super nice to see. I know that this will forever kind of haunt you guys. In the beginning of the year, whenever Dante would drive, get into the lane, it kind of just seemed as soon as he left his feet, you kind of just knew it was going to be the jump pass turnover. It's been great to see him fully kind of kick that from his game. If he's in the lane, he's just kind of whatever. If it's a bad shot, I'm going to shoot it. I'm just going to eat it. If it goes in, it goes in. It seems like he's thinking a lot less, and he's kind of just letting the game flow through him. And you're just kind of seeing it, or the production change from the first half of the year. He looks confident. He's shooting the ball well. He's scoring in the teens. He plays within the offense too. And I think a fun part about Dante's game is you get those occasional like random 29, 30-foot bombs in like the middle of the third quarter. And every time it happens, I'm just like, oh my gosh. And it just keeps you on the edge of your seat. And I can't recall the last time that we've had a player like that, just strictly from a shooting standpoint in Minnesota. So it's definitely something cool to have on your team. This is something that I haven't personally witnessed, or just nothing that I can comes to my recollection. But yeah, great game from Dante. This is what I expected from him, and I just only expect to see him get better as the rest of the season continues.
How about shooting 5 for 7 for Dante DiVincenzo tonight?
Yeah,
absolute heater for him, efficient as can get. On top of that, 5 rebounds. That's nothing new for Dante. He seems to always go in, hustle, even though he's the smaller guy on the court, sometimes the smallest player on the court, and he always goes out and gets rebounds. He's kind of like our Josh Hart for the Knicks now. He just kind of does everything right, gets assists, goes out there. He's a dog, guards, will go out and get rebounds. He's not afraid to bang bodies. We see him diving on the floor. He does all these things. How about that pass tonight from Nickeil Alexander-Walker to Dante behind the back on the breakaway? It just seems like you can see the chemistry forming for the Timberwolves. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is the next guy I want to kind of transition to. And, Nickeil had a rough game there, Andrew. What do you think Nikhil's struggles were tonight, and then what gives you hope that Nikhil's going to rebound, because we saw him have a really efficient last couple games before tonight.
I mean, it's such a weird world we live in where Nickeil Alexander-Walker having 3 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists is like bad. I mean, last year that was like just a normal Nickeil game, and sometimes he popped off for 10. Now he just has higher expectations, and it's because he's been, I wouldn't say our best player, but he's been by far our most consistent player from game one to now.
Yeah.
He brings it on defense. He bodies people. He slips screens. He rebounds. He's been trying to be a point guard. I mean, he's really kind of a Swiss Army knife. People have bad games, and you look at how many minutes Nickeil played last night. You look at how hard he had to play last night, and then you factor in that the Wolves touched down in Charlotte at like 4 a.m. Eastern and had a game at 7 p.m. or 4 a.m. Eastern, had a game at 7 p.m. Eastern. Like, he might just be tired. Who knows? But I'm not worried about him at all. Like, the fact that he was able to just go out there and still give you 29 minutes and be a positive that's what they needed tonight.
I mean, he's a great defender, and you saw it again tonight. He was making all these little plays that don't show up on the stat sheet. That's what we're used to seeing from Nickeil Alexander-Walker on a day-to-day basis. I thought another player who didn't necessarily show up on the stat sheet, who's not going to end in the box score-wise with, crazy numbers. He only had 4 points. Went 1 of 3, but that's Terrence Shannon Jr. I thought he was fantastic later in the game tonight. I noticed him. The broadcast team noticed him. I thought he was hustling. There was 2 different occasions where he was under the hoop and he threw it off of the opposing team's player in the Hornets, if you guys remember, people watching. And I thought those are the hustle plays. There's another play where Terrence got a rebound, kind of went in, crashed the boards, ended up drawing a foul call. And I think those are those plays of why TSJ is all gas, no break, why we love him in Minnesota. How about TSJ tonight, Matt?
Yeah, that's kind of like you said, just those little hustle plays. Those are how you make your name known and how you let your coaching staff know, hey, I'm willing to make dirty plays. I'm willing to put my body on the line. Sure, if I'm not scoring, if I'm not touching the ball, it's whatever, but I'm still going to do my best to contribute to winning basketball. And we don't only have Terrence Shannon, but we also have Jaylen Clark. I'll kind of just knock out 2 birds with 1 stone. I feel like it was kind of one of those games from Jaylen Clark as well. Kind of limited minutes, limited role, but when he was on the floor, they were both excellent. They just played to their role, did what they were asked, kind of played that corner man in the offense. Like I said, they weren't asked to do much of anything, but on the defensive side of the ball, whenever there were loose balls, 22 and 00, they were both there. So again, those are both 2 players that I would give a super high game grade to today.
They were awesome. They were just, I love watching the young guys play. Rob even played pretty solid, I thought, when he had his minutes tonight as well. Didn't play a ton, right? But out there, hustled. He got a 3-point shot. I believe he had a solid defense, I thought, all around for Rob Dillingham. They're just an exciting trio of guys coming up. And like we talked about the other day, Andrew, if you're ever going to be in a position to have all these contracts or these high level, big contracts where you're paying a lot of salary, like, Rudy Gobert, Jaden McDaniels, Anthony Edwards, Naz Reid, if they re-sign him, right? You need these young talents to fill out the roster. And on top of that, if you desire to ever acquire a different player, it's pretty important, isn't it, Andrew, having these 3 young guys kind of turn out and you hit, right?
I mean, it's Tim Conley's vision, right? Like, you got Julius Randle at $30 million. That's a big salary chunk. And then you have guys like Rob, Jaylen, Terrence, Nickeil, if he re-signs. Players that are really appealing for a playoff team. Like Rob, obviously, maybe not the most appealing to a playoffs team because he's had a rough rookie year. But like Terrence Shannon, I think all 20 teams in the playoffs and play-in want a Terrence Shannon on their team. Yes. Jaylen Clark, every team needs a Jaylen Clark. Nickeil's going to get paid this offseason because teams need a Nickeil that can defend and hit threes. It's so exciting to watch the Wolves, even though this season, it's kind of been a drag. Western Conference Finals to, battling for the 6th seed, all the injuries, all of the frustration with, what is Finch doing with an 8-man rotation? Why isn't Julius blending? What's going on with Dante? That being said, like, this team still could get into the playoffs play the Nuggets and knock the Nuggets out. I mean, they rise to the occasion against these teams. And what's really weird is their young guys like Jalen Clark and Shannon don't play like young guys. Clark's getting minutes over Rob because he does not make mistakes. He is in the right spot defensively. He makes the right pass. He doesn't force shots. Terrence Shannon the same way. Like, he is always in the right position. He never leaves people on an island. He runs and hustles constantly. And to have that on a 4-year contract for Shannon and 2 more, and this year and next year for Jalen, like, that's such a luxury for this team. Because if they do go out and make a big swing, or if they re-sign Julius, they just have players that are going to be a part of this future that they're going to be able to squeeze in the salary cap.
Yeah, you're not going to be, I was, before you go, Matt, I was just going to say, you're not going to be, I'll make it quick. You're not going to be, kind of like the Phoenix Suns, where it's just front heavy, right? And I think you're seeing why Phoenix is struggling so much this year. You need those young guys to fill up the depth just because you don't have all that salary. And I'll kick it over to you, Matt.
Yeah, my fault about that, Evan. But something that I kind of wanted to cover last night that kind of slipped my mind that just now reminded me, Andrew. You said kind of just coming to fruition, right? Everybody's getting healthy. Seems like things are clicking right at the right time. We've talked about this in our last few episodes. It's kind of been posted around social media on our end, but it kind of seems like we haven't necessarily closed games or just played games, as a matter of fact, against lower end teams like the Hornets, the Jazz, the Wizards, and we play better against the Thunder, play better against the Celtics, and so forth. And we have the easiest schedule remaining in the West this year. So with that being said, with us struggling against lower end teams, what do you guys think we need to do for these remaining 20, 25 games to close out the year strong, miss the play-in, and kind of solidify ourselves anywhere from that 4 to 6 seed?
I mean, it's having what Chris Finch is claiming now is the 10-man rotation. It's being able to play that. It's being able to accept that. And I think that's what you saw tonight. These young guys coming and stepping up, them hustling. You have Dante, who's came back, Randall, who's now back. And those two have injected life back into the lineup. You're seeing what Jaden's doing now, evolving. You're seeing what Naz Reid's doing, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. All these different players are really coming into their own. And I think the pressure is starting, it looks like, to be taken off of Anthony Edwards just a little bit, where he's not having to have those games where we saw where he was averaging, 40 or 37 a game. He's starting to be able to rest more. And I think that's a big thing. Obviously, Mike Conley tonight, this is a key to being able to, win these last 20 games as well, is being able to have Mike Conley rest a game like tonight, because you have the depth now since these players have came back, since you've hit on these young guys. And then you're going to have Rudy Gobert as well coming back soon, which is another body coming in. And maybe Rudy Gobert gets rest every other night. We've talked about it before, Andrew. The key of doing that is balancing the minutes between the old guys, maybe giving Ant a break at certain times, keeping everybody fresh, right? So that we're ready and rocking to go into the play-in or playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, this last stretch was brutal. I mean, they played 5 games in 7 nights, or 4 in 6 nights, or something.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't happen again for the rest of the season. That's a plus. Playing bad teams on rest when bad teams are going for Cooper Flag, that's awesome for the Wolves. I think the most important thing, and it's something that almost every player on the team has talked about, and Chris Finch has talked about, is just they need to figure out how to find an edge when they're going into these games against lesser players. And I'll never forget Mike Conley was like, I've been in the league forever. I can find an edge by just Googling my name and get pissed off about something. That doesn't work for everyone. People need to figure out what motivates them. I think Anthony Edwards is the perfect case study of this, of if it's Phoenix, for example, you don't even need to tell him to show up. He's ready. He's going to blow him out of the water. If it's OKC, if it's Denver, if it's Golden State, that guy wakes up for him. But what motivates Ant for a Wednesday night game against, I don't know, pick your bad team, Utah? You know what I mean? And that's the thing that hopefully he's figured it out. Tonight was encouraging. Last night was encouraging. Maybe having that double tech game and getting tossed and all of that sparked something in him to finish the season strong. It's just weird because there's some guys on this team that you don't need to worry about, like Jaden,
Nickeil.
Nikhil, Jalen, TJ, Nas usually shows up for every game. And then there's just other guys like Rudy, for some reason against bad teams, isn't crashing as hard. Ant kind of goes in and out against bad teams.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's more of the problem. And I think last year it was masked a little bit because when Ant wasn't motivated for a game, you had Towns that could drop 40 on any given night. This year, Randall he can't drop 40 every night. And if he were to drop 40, it would probably be on 30 shots. And that just doesn't work.
Yeah, I think it is just a positive as well. Like going into the playoffs, like even if it is like, you don't play well against quote unquote piss poor teams, but in the playoffs, there aren't bad teams, It's the best of the best. It's the most elite in the NBA. And being in the most competitive league in the world, like you want to shine when the lights are the brightest. And I feel like, that is definitely where we do have one of the higher edges in the league, kind of being in that middle age to younger age group of team. I feel like that is something that definitely benefits us.
The other thing is like the 6th seed, I think is important to avoid the play-in. I don't think being on the road is going to bother them. Like Ant loves playing on the road. Jaden talks about how he'd rather play on the road than at home because like it's fun for him to be the bad guy. Yeah. Rudy plays on the road. Mike plays on the road. Dante and Julius have both been there and done that. Like I think if they can just get the 6th seed and go into the playoffs healthy, they're going to still probably be really fun to watch, and they could easily steal a round against anyone.
Yeah, I think we talked about it yesterday for people who weren't on our show the other day. I don't know. I just feel like the Rockets are that team that looks like they're just falling, and Golden State looks really solid right now, but they have a tough schedule coming up too. I mean, they face the Brooklyn Nets tomorrow if you look at their schedule, and then they have just a streak of like Portland, Detroit, Milwaukee, New York, a bunch of teams in there that are solid that can give them a loss or two, and then Minnesota's sitting right there at the 6th seed. So it's going to get interesting to kind of end it here. Speaking of interesting games, this Friday, we are going to face off against the Miami Heat. And if you aren't doing anything, we actually host watch parties for the Minnesota Timberwolves at Head Flyer Brewing in Northeast Minneapolis. We are partnered with Head Flyer Brewing, so shout out to them. But it's a ton of fun, man. If you want to come out, they're kid-friendly too. Bring them to the tap room, just hang out and vibe out. They have non-alcoholic beverages for the kids. Get some soda. They have a pizza truck, food truck that's outside, so you can get some great pizza. It's a ton of fun. They got TVs everywhere, and just to be around a lot of Wolves fans. We do live podcast shows at halftime. We're going to be doing one. Matt will be there as well with me this Friday. And so pop out to Head Flyer Brewing in Northeast Minneapolis. Also, I will tell everyone on the stream right now, you're the first ones to hear it. 3/21. We're going to be unrevealing something at Head Flyer Brewing. I'm not going to say what yet. That will come out in the next week or two, but 3/21 is a Friday for a Timberwolves game. Again, there is something special happening with us at Head Flyer Brewing. Just keep your eyes out and plan for 3/21. We're also, we're partnered with Better, the best sports betting app out there. That's BETR. Type it into your app store on your Apple or Android phone. Download Better today and start sports betting. You can legally sports bet in the state of Minnesota, which is pretty cool. And on top of that, if you put in our promo code TheDailySPN, that's one word, the Daily SPN, you're actually going to get a $200 deposit match on your first deposit with Better. It's that easy, man. We're hooking you up with some free deposit money to play around with. Bet on the game this Friday when the Wolves face the Miami Heat, because I know I'm going to be placing bets. Matt's going to be placing bets. But yeah, that's Better, the best sports betting app out there. Guys, we're obviously going to be playing against the Miami Heat Friday. They're shorthanded. How do we get the W before we wrap things up here? What's something we got to do to keep the Miami Heat under control? Matt, I'll swing it up to you first.
I think, it's definitely just going to be finding consistency, playing, not relying on Anthony Edwards. I think I should phrase it as that, not relying on Ant, continuing to play as a team, continuing to swing the ball. I feel like that has been a big thing that we've seen in these last 2 games that have led to success. We're kind of steering away from the ISO ball. We're swinging the ball to the corners. We're finding open shooters, finding open cutters. And it's basketball 101. The more you swing the ball, the defense is going to be on their heels, and you're going to find somebody open at some point. So just continuing to move the ball, getting everybody involved on the offense. I think that's going to be the key to winning against Miami. Obviously, you got to Tyler Harrow, he's had a great season this year. You're going to have to find a way to contain him and Bam. I haven't seen much of Andrew Wiggins. So, yeah, I think that just pretty much Jaden, Nas, Julius, whoever's going to be playing the two-man game with Bam and Tyler, I think if we can play them well, I feel like this is one of those games that we should win. I know we've said that how many times this year, but just with how we've been playing, it seems like things are clicking. I feel like it should be a good, solid win for us on Friday.
Andrew, what do you got for us before we wrap things up quick?
Man, they're playing on the road. I would much rather have them play a bad team on the road. Their lives are incredibly structured. I will keep piping that. Like, I'll keep saying that every road game this year. Like, they are good on the road against bad teams. They go to bed on time. They wake up on time. They go to practice. They eat the same things. I think they'll win it pretty easily, honestly. I mean, Miami has enough talent to where I think it'll motivate these guys to show up and not take a quarter off, but they'll also be like pretty structured going into it with an off day as well. Other than that, seriously though, anyone listening, go to Head Flyer. It's a great time. I've been there a few times. It's a really good vibe there.
Yeah, they're gonna be doing stuff for if the Timberwolves go to the play-in or playoffs too. So there's a lot of excitement coming up. I know John Krasinski is going to be doing something coming up there as well. And shout out to John. He's obviously one of the GOATs in the community for the Timberwolves. So yeah, I mean, there's going to be tons of fun stuff going on at Headfire Brewing. We're also partnered with SeatGeek, the best ticket app out there, guys. If you go on SeatGeek and you put in our promo code The Daily Wolves, all one word, you're going to get $20 off your next purchase on SeatGeek. It's that easy, man. We're helping you out to your next concert or tickets. Enter promo code The Daily Wolves on SeatGeek today and get your tickets. It's been awesome having you guys on. As always, Matt. As always, Andrew. Go Wolves, guys.
Go Wolves.